Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony, and welcome to another edition of BnA Sports Talk. So this is my BnA Sports Podcast preview. I know I haven't uploaded in a while. I think I'm probably going to double upload tomorrow before BnA Weekly, but BnA Sports Podcast, I always forget, is going to be a really packed and busy one, just to make up for all the days I've missed. Still haven't recorded any of it yet, but I am working hard on preparing everything. But today, what I really want to do is give you a little bit of a preview. So today, we're going to do the American League. How did I do in the first half of the season? And then in the BnA Sports Podcast, we're going to move on to the National League. And I'll give you my updated playoff predictions for the rest of the season. So let's start with the American League today. And so let's start with the AL East. I predicted the Yankees to have 98 wins, and they're about on pace for that. They need to make a big move at the deadline with a pitcher. Their relief pitching has been good. Not that as great as we thought it'd be, but it's still been really solid. Aroldis Chapman has actually been a surprise. I thought he'd start falling off, but he's starting to add his slider really into his repertoire really well, and he still has that 100-mile heater that he throws, and he made the All-Star game again this year with the second most saves so far this season. Gary Sanchez really stepped up in a little bit of a slump recently, but we're not going to be able to get a starting pitcher like Scherzer or Matt Bum. I don't think we're going to get those guys, and I'll be cautioned to get another Stroman, maybe Matt Boyd if the the Detroit Tigers are sellers at the deadline. The Yankees have had one of the easiest schedules so far this year, so I expect them to fall back just a little bit in the second half, especially with how hot their bats have been, and their whole team is coming together. But I expect them to fall back like they kind of did last year, and they should be around 98 wins, like I said in the beginning of the season. I also predicted the Red Sox have 96 wins. Now their offense has been great. Rafael Devers, great. Mookie Betts has been a little bit disappointing in his MVP run-up season, but JD Martinez has been great. You have Andrew Benintendi, who hasn't, it's been up and down for a lot of players. What I'm trying to say, their main question is their relief pitching and their starting pitching for that much too. I mean, David Price, Chris Sale are not getting any younger. Do they make a move? Do they get Chad Wheeler? Them and the Yankees are vying for Chad Wheeler. I think that's the big prize in this before the deadline. And can they get him? And they don't have Craig Kimbrel anymore. I think he was a little bit overrated as it was. But I still think that the Red Sox are going to be a viable team. I pulled them back to around 90 wins so far this season. And so that's around 6 under from what I said in the beginning of the season. Tampa Bay Rays, I predicted at 83 wins. I think they have, especially in the beginning of the season, so far they've had one of the hardest schedules. Going into the rest of the season, they have one of the easiest schedules. And I don't assume that Blake Snell is going to continue his struggles that we've been seeing. I think he rebounds. I think this offense continues to what they do. And I'm going to bump them up to probably third place in this division. I still don't see them beating the Red Sox, especially with the Red Sox. They have such a good lineup and a pitching staff that has been struggling. But as you go later in the season, I think they rebound. I think they start playing well again. So next, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Baltimore Orioles. I had the Baltimore Orioles at 55 wins, I believe. I could be wrong. I have it on the screen anyway. So I think that they're right around there. I mean, they have some bright stars. They have that catcher that they just drafted. They have some potential. Trey Mancini, not that bad. It's just our starting pitching is just awful. I mean, this team has a lot of years to go. The Marlins are a little bit faster in the development of this, their rebuild. And, Baltimore Orioles, they started off like 10-10, I want to say, and everyone's like, oh shit, they're not going to be that bad. But no, they're really that bad. Kind of like the Seattle Mariners that I'll mention later. And Toronto, they're going to be sellers at the deadline. Stroman is going to be a target for a lot of people to take. They have a bright little core with Vlad Guerrero Jr., but that's pretty much it. But, Toronto is a couple years away from really competing, and they're going to have a 2 to 3 year window. And I said the Toronto Blue Jays will be around 72 wins. I'm predicting around 70 wins. So the AL East overall has been really good. I thought Tampa would take a step back, but I didn't think that their starting pitching would be as good with Blake Snell. And then they made the Charlie Morton acquisition. That kind of went under my radar signing. So let's move on to the AL Central. And this is what I have money on. I have the money on the Cleveland Indians barely eking out the Twins. Both had the easiest schedules so far this year as anybody in the entire league. These two teams had the easiest schedules. Minnesota Twins having a slightly easier schedule than the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Indians are a 500 team on paper. Everything about them says 500 team, but they keep on fighting. Carlos Carrasco is dealing with leukemia. They've had a lot of injuries. I'm not sure when the Klubot is coming back, but I don't know. This team has great starting pitching. Their schedule eases up, like I mentioned in one of my betting videos. It didn't really do that well. Anyway, so they have a 3-game set against the Twins. They can get it within 2.5 games. And I think that the Indians barely eke out the Twins, and they're hover around 94, 95 wins. A little bit of a pullback as their schedules get a little bit harder, but still in that mid-90 range. And I think that the Twins and the Cleveland Indians are probably around 93, 94 wins, with Cleveland barely eking it out as they go down the stretch. And then Chicago White Sox, they're a little bit more impressive than I thought they'd be. I thought they'd be around 100 losses, but I'm giving them around 85, 82 losses this season. I thought after they missed out on Manny Machado, their whole season would kind of fall apart, but hasn't really that much. And I think the White Sox have a bright future. They just need to get their starting rotation in order, and they just need to get guys. They need to just develop guys. Everywhere needs help. There's no one position, unless you're talking about first base with Jose Abreu. Unless you're talking about that. And then Tigers and Royals, they're 100 loss teams. Nothing really to mention. So let's move on to the AL West, because I said that the Angels would win this division. And their offense has been great, but their pitching has really let down. I thought they'd take a step up, and I thought the Astros would take a step down as far as their pitching, because with the losses of a lot of, pitchers. And I thought Justin Verlander, a year older, eventually he's going to fall off, but he hasn't. I actually had Verlander as the AL Cy Young Award winner for for the American League. And he's probably going to do it. So my Cy Young was right. I said Mike Trout would win the MVP. That's about right. And then I had Brad Asmus, the coach of the Angels, being the coach of the year. I don't think that's going to happen. It's probably going to be that young guy in Minnesota. Forget his name, but he's a young guy, kind of like Alex Cora, this youth of... I should have picked up on that, but yeah, I'm kind of disappointed I didn't. The Athletics, I think, are going to be great. I think that they have a chance to actually surge and get a wild card spot, and actually, I think that they do. I think that them and the Boston Red Sox will get wild card spots. Them and the Twins will probably get wild card spots. It's going to be Red Sox, Houston, and Twins. Two of those three are going to get spots. Texas Rangers, I think, pull back just a little bit because their bats have been insane. They're pitching with Lance Lynn and Mike Minor have been insane. I just think they pull back. You don't really have... Odor has been struggling. Joey Gallo has been tearing it up. Since True is amazing. Andrus, just this whole lineup has been great. I said with this lineup last year that they can have around 80 to 85 wins, and people were like, hey, Anthony, what are you talking about? And they ended up doing bad last year, but this year with the same roster, I'm not sure if they added Mike Minor, I'm not sure if he was pitching last year, but with the same roster, they're doing just as good, so I take credit for that. Didn't really have them at high this year. I had them at 66 wins, and they would have to go like 200 for the rest of the season in order for them only to get 66 wins. I had the Athletics around 86, so that's about right. I think that they're going to be in the upper 80s. And for Seattle, they start off 13-3. But they're still hitting a lot of home runs. But yeah, this team is sellers. Edwin Gonzalez gone, Robbie Cano gone, Edwin Encarnacion gone. They're in full rebuild. They're going to be huge sellers at the deadline, so I can even see them being as bad as the Orioles, kind of that 60 to 62 range with 100 losses. They're in the Royals, Detroit range, and they're just trying to bump back. That's the problem a little bit with the MLB, but that's a topic for a different video. Houston Astros, this division, I think it's theirs to lose. I think that they fall back a little bit in the second half of the season. Not really fall back, but them and the Yankees have had a lot of injuries. They've persevered, but I think they have around 96 wins. Don't quite reach 100. I don't think any team, bold prediction, even though there are 4 teams currently on pace for 100-plus wins in the AL, I don't think any of them reach it. I think a lot of these teams pull back, especially going into the second half, even though they get a lot of players back. I still don't see it. And yeah, so this is my predictions. The Angels are not going to be a wild card spot. I've jumped off their bandwagon, even though I'm still pulling out hope because I have some money bet on them. Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy this video. Again, make sure to tune in to my NL recap predictions. I think I mentioned everything so far in this video that I wanted to mention. If I didn't, I'll add something at the end. But yeah, that's probably it. Make sure BnA Sports Podcast. Remember, on Sunday, if you want to see my NL predictions for the rest of the season and how I did, definitely let me know. What am I saying? Anyway, hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.